Shalom, shalom lekulam, and Shavua Tov. Warm greetings to us, to our subscribers, followers, different platform. Welcome to our weekly Torah portion. Despite that we are late a week late. So this is the Parashat of last week. The Bisharat Ishmael, we will catch up. We will catch up with the sequence, the order, without being delayed. Bisharat Ishmael. Looking at the advent of history of man, the limitation of man is taken to be the weakness or the strength of others, particularly the construct that define, that are also responsible for our daily thoughts. The limitation of man in his daily life is used against himself. And this comes in a form of your will, or the choice, and they're called the free choice. We will see Bisharat Ishmael, the position of Torah when it comes to a thing called the free choice or free will. The Torah portion of last week, Reeh, see. This is not only about the physical side, this is also about you discerning between what is likely to make you a victim and what is not. And this is this should be seen through the lens of the Torah dictates. Parashat Reeh, free will and individual responsibility. Parashat Reeh, see, found in a book of Devarim, translated as Deuteronomy, is a dense section that sets out the spiritual and social foundations of the Israelite people before their entry into the land of Canaan, the promised land. It opens with Moshe's solemn declaration concerning free will, placing the people before a crucial choice between blessing and a curse. That destiny will turn directly on adherence to or abandonment of mitzvot, meaning commandments, as is translated, thereby underscoring the deep individual and the collective responsibility of the federation of the 12 tribes of Israel. not a specific tribe, but a collective responsibility, confederation of the 12 tribes, meaning without two, without the rest of others, there is no such a complete confederation. Upon settlement in the promised land, a major shift takes place with the centralization of worship. Unlike the desert period, sacrifices, tithes, and the first fruit may no longer be offered anywhere, but only at a single place chosen by God. At the same time, Moshe demands absolute vigilance against idolatry, ordering the destruction of the Canaanite cults, and a warning against false prophets, the seducers, Messid, and the wayward city, Ir Nidichat, that could lead the people astray. The Parashat also illustrates the pillars of kashrut by detailing the signs of impurity of animals, split hooves, and the chewing the cud for the land animals, and the presence of fins and the scale for fish. It leads impure birds and reaffirms the prohibition against cooking a kid in its mother's milk. This dietary laws draws a clear line between what is pure and what is impure, elevating the everyday act of eating to a sacred act. On a social level, the Torah establishes an exemplary system of justice and solidarity to protect the vulnerable. This concludes Maaseh Sheni, the tithe to be consumed in Yerushalayim, and the Maaseh Ani, the tithe for the poor, as well as the Shemitah, which requires debt to be cancelled every 7 years. The mitzvot of tzedakah is central. One must not close one's hand or heart to the needy, like what we were now indoctrinated, have been introduced to. Like we always say, before the advent of the civilization, we did not have street people on a street, or people are going hungry, while others are in possession of food. Likewise, a Hebrew servant must be freed in the 7th year and provided with a generous gift upon release to ensure reintegration. It's not the outcast that was brought upon the advent of civilization. Finally, the reading concludes with the organization of 3 pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and the Sukkot, during which every man is to come to Jerusalem to rejoice with his household, the Levite, the strangers, orphans, and the widows. For the Area Kadosh, Moshe's words, Reeh, Anochi noten lifinechem, Hayom bracha uveklala, are not merely an ethical admonition, but disclose the cosmic dynamic on which the world's spiritual destiny depends. He places human action at the heart of a metaphysical process called tikkun, or repair, After the primordial creation came the shattering of the vessels, Shevirat Hakelim, catastrophic events that scattered divine sparks, Nitzotzot, into matters. From this perspective, human existence has the primary purpose of finding, extracting, and elevating those sparks back to their celestial roots, thereby restoring the original harmony. The race in Reeh therefore possesses an ontological and operative choice. Blessing, bracha, signifies the increased liberation of divine light through the ratification of the vessels, whereas curse, klala, denote the deepening of concealment, the embedding of klipot shells of separation, and the further entanglement of the light. This reading explains why human deeds matter beyond their apparent moral significance. Every properly performed mitzvah, earnest study, prayer with intention, charity given conscientiously, sacrificial worship offered in the proper place, actually performs a cosmic operation. It releases sparks, raises them, and unite them with their sephirotic root. But the Arya Kadoshi's Kabbalah stresses a crucial distinction concerning the quality of the act. An outward mitzvah without kavanah, meaning intention, directed intention, produces only a limited, almost mechanical effect. Like most of what we experience in our days, some of us are standing, wherever we are standing, could be in those Beit Kenesiot, or in Midrashim, or at the kotel, and we cry, we shout, just because, well, this is what everybody does, or the majority do. Here, the Torah sages are saying, it should not be mechanical. It may superficially mend a vessel without repairing the deep connections between the Sephirot. By contrast, a mitzvah performed with a kavanah precisely orients the light to the spiritual channels that needs it, healing specific gaps in the Sephirotic network and prompting authentic revelation. Thus, the Ari distinguishes the quantitative efficacy of any act, having performed the mitzvah, from its qualitative efficacy, how it was performed. The interdependence of soul is another cornerstone of his teaching. Souls are not isolated entities. They share common roots and often complementary fragmentations expressed in notions such as Gilgulim and the Sheati Nitzotzot. Consequently, the impact of an individual action propagates a mitzvah can benefit other souls' roots, and conversely, a sin can create deposits of klipot that obstruct the flow of light for an entire group. This principle gives Moshe's phrase a collective dimension. Although C addresses the individual first, the plural, Lifnechem, reminds us that the whole community feels and shares the consequences. The Ari, therefore, regard individual responsibility as the keystone of collective repair. Small, repeated, sincere act ultimately produce systemic change. The severity of a case is explained in Ari's terminology. Repeated sins do not merely increase moral darkness, they consolidate clipot, build barriers, and foster a contraction, a localized form of symptom that exclude light. The more entrenched the transgression, the more rooted the concealment, and the harder it becomes to effect rectification. Hence, Moshe's edge tone, postponing the choice of blessings, permit the forces of obscuration to take hold, which increases the pain and the time required for subsequent tikkun. For the Ari, repentance, teshuvah, and the spiritual remedies are also operative. They are not merely moral feelings, but acts that change their cosmic configuration. Since teshuvah, remorse accompanied by confession, concrete resolutions, and the compensatory actions such as study and charity actually disperses concentrations of kilipot and reconnect sparks to their root, thereby reversing, as far as possible, accumulated negative effect. The Kabbalistic therapy for sins, therefore, include the precise means, specific mitzvot, tailored kavanot, and the liturgical practices aimed at repairing the affected spiritual channels. Finally, the Ari nuances the relation between determinism and freedom. Although the cosmic structure includes frameworks, soul roots, particular missions, and the ingrained tendencies, human freedom is real and casually efficacious. The soul can, through its decisions, alter the degree of liberation of the Sephirot and influence the state of the world. The choice of blessing is not merely symbolic. It constitutes ontological reality, acting with inward intensity, moral perseverance, and awareness of a communal effect is literally to contribute to the universal restoration willed by the Creator. Stay tuned. Shabbat Shema, we continue.
Bana Congo, Bana Congo, yeah, Bana Congo. Rise up, Bana Congo, Bana Congo.
Welcome to Shidduch Afriki, the Bantu Israelite matrimonial matchmaking agency, supervised by the Chief Rabbi of Africa Pinchas Eliyahu Shadi. Are you seeking an authentic union based on halakhic principles? We're here to guide you every step of the way. Book your interview. +33 956 24 5409.
For the first time in history, A work of halacha brings together the wisdom of Ben Ish Hai, the mystical secrets of the Ari Hakadosh, and the rabbinical decrees of the chief rabbi of Africa for the Shomrei, the observance of Nusak Afriki. Ben Meshek Beti, Nusak Afriki. Volume 1. A Sefer of restoration, an act of memory, an instrument of sanctification. For the descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel, guardians of an eternal covenant. This is not just another book, it is a path toward holiness.
What if speech were more than communication? What if it were power? It is a living force that shapes reality.
Welcome, Tzadikim, Tzadakot. We, from the Chief Rabbinate of Africa, we encourage our followers, our subscribers, wherever you are, to get it to our website and order books that you will find there. Amazing, mamash, they say in Hebrew, books that will speak, that will elucidate at your level what you are required, as Ari Kadosh is telling us and teaching us. What the Torah is conveying it to us, but expounded to every generation by our masters. Get it to our website, order your books, whatever books may speak to you. For surely, each one of those books that you will find there will speak to you, and they will align you to what we, or what the Torah is communicating to you in every parsha of the Torah. Free will and the individual responsibility according to Bantu Israelites. In the vision of B'nai Congo, the person is not unified, autonomous substance, but rather a relational and harmonic composition. The body, sometimes called Ndo, or Dembu, depend on a Bantu dialect, is the visible material part, subject to the needs and the limitations of the flesh. The vital force is the energy that animates the body, making action possible and maintaining the continuity of life. Added to this is a spiritual and ancestral dimension. This immaterial pole is the source of moral conscience, the memory of lineage, and the capacity for judgment and discernment. It is not any isolated soul. It is rooted in a family, cosmic history, spiritual root, linked to ancestors and the local forces, which provide individual with moral and cognitive resources, and to act correctly in both the concrete and the ritual worlds. For the 10 tribes of Israel, the B'nai Israel, a specific conception of free will flows from this composition. Free will is not valued as an abstract autonomy, opposed to all frameworks. It is understood as conferred and a structured faculty emerging from the conjunction of the body, vital force, and the spiritual heritage. In other words, the capacity to choose belongs to an ontological network. The individual can decide, but their discerning abilities, and the criteria for what is good or evil derive from a collective memory of ancestors and the ritual and the symbolic purpose. Free will is thus an oriented aptitude directed toward the preservation of the order that sustains life and prosperity. The purpose of this freedom is primarily pragmatic and cosmological. It aims for balance. Among the Bnei Moshe, the world functions through interrelations between the visible forces, men, land, harvest, and invisible ones, ancestors, spirit, gisi, spiritual object. Human choices are evaluated by their effect on this balance and act in accordance with the traditional norms, respect for rituals, obedience to taboos, and the prohibitions, active proximity to ancestors, and just behavior toward others supports the fertility of the forest, the health of families, and the social peace. Unlike what we are experiencing now, for commercial purposes, man is made to destroy his forest to the extent that man destroy part of his life. Conversely, transgression, selfishness, all of the breaking of ritual rules can attract illness, misfortune, conflict, or intervention of a vindictive spirit. Within this framework, free will aims to safeguard and restore cosmic and the social harmony. It is not meant to promote individualism. And the individualism, this is what characterizes so many communities and societies, in modern societies and the communities. But to make the individual a responsible actor in service to the collective and the ordered world. In the Torah Aleph, this purpose explains the central role of responsibility and the interdependence. An individual decision is never strictly private. It has repercussions for the lineage, the neighborhood, the village, and the relationship with the ancestors. For this reason, social institutions, chieftaincies, council of elders, ritual assemblies, and the specialized mediations, diviners, higher initiates, healers, frame the decision-making process. This signifies two things. First, that personal autonomy is limited and channeled. And the second, that this limitation aims to protect the community and to prevent choices that could destabilize the network of forces. Unlike with the advent of human right, many hagim or customs of many societies or communities have been destroyed by the interpretations of the construct that defines modern societies in the name of right and free will. Thus, disobedience, not listening to what the Torah is saying. Objects all figures invested with a spiritual efficacy, such as Ngisi, play a concrete role through oath, pacts, and ritual sealings. They symbolize and sometimes sanction commitments morally and symbolically, binding the individual to a given conduct. Nonetheless, the culture of the 10 tribes does not stifle creative thought. Free thought is appreciated in its useful and practical dimension. Society respects, honors those who think well, sages, skilled artisans, inventive healers, and clever mediators between their creativity, save because their creativity serves the group. Innovation is welcome as long as it is rooted in the memory of the ancestors and preserves cosmic balance. Thus, novelty that carelessly breaks ritual ties or neglects the influence of the ancestors is viewed with suspicion, while invention that renews practices for the benefit of the community receive recognition. Art, songs, proverbs, tales, and the ritual manifest. Ritual manifest this dynamic. One finds a creativity linked to transmission, a free thought that feeds on tradition and renews it without betraying it. For the Bantu Israelite, ancestors and the spiritual forces play a guiding role rather than one of the mechanical operation. They do not dictate every decision, but their expectations, their memory, their normative power, structure, the responsibilities of human actor. Rituals serves to align individual will with the collective goals. They reaffirm the individual's place in the lineage, remind them of their duties, and transmit the criteria for sound judgment. Pact and oath made before Ngisi, Nkosi, often accompanied by offerings and symbolic inscriptions, give strength to expected behavior. They make moral responsibility visible and binding. Furthermore, the interventions of diviners and healers does not negate freedom. It illuminated it through their diagnosis and advice. They expose the probable consequences of choices, thereby allowing for a better informed decision. Ultimately, the freedom of B'nai Congo is always exercised within a normative and a ritual framework. Initiation rites, for example, shape decision-making capacity by teaching not only technical knowledge, agriculture, medicine, craftsmanship, but also ways of thinking, how to weigh the consequences of an act, how to consult, how to interpret signs, and how to dialogue with the ancestors, something that is discouraged by the religions of the civilization imposed or nowadays embraced in a modern society and communities, particularly in what is well known in the continent of Africa. The recourse to mediation and the collective wisdom modulates individual autonomy without denying it. The decision may remain that of an individual, a chief, an initiate, a healer, but it is inscribed within socially validated procedures. The result is a balance between individual responsibility and the safeguarding of the common good, where the freedom of choice is understood as a power to be used to maintain cosmic order and the social where the freedom to choose is understood as a power to be used to maintain cosmic order and the social solidarity, rather than a right to assert the ego outside the relational web that gives a meaning to all action. Chaverim, tzadikim, tzadakot, this is the weekly Pasha Reeh. This is the word of the chief rabbi of the Chief Rabbinate of Africa, brought to you by the Chief Rabbinate of Africa. One more emphasis before we close this very Pasha. Go through this presentation of the Pasha. Acquire books that we have listed on our website. Make an investment for your children and for your descendants. They will align you to the lofty ideas propounded by the Chief Rabbi of Africa. It is my hope and a wish that we'll do so. Hope to see you in the course of the week. Bisharat Shmaya. Thank you very much for being with us. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve amen.